hours during his time at U of T. He has a very comprehensive surgical practice with focus on anterior segment and refractive surgery. Currently, he is the chief at Welland Hospital, and he has a wealth of experience with the technosymphony, so ask a lot of questions, and I welcome Dr. Taylor to the podium.
Thanks, Amanda and AMO for sponsoring this evening. Thanks everyone for coming. I'm really honored to give this talk tonight about the Symphony intraocular lens. I think most of you know me, been in refractive surgery for over 20 years in the peninsula. And so I've seen waves, and we've all seen waves of technologies that suit our patients. And this is really one of the most exciting technologies that I've come across in the last 10 years. So if you look back on refractive surgery, and you go back to 2001, what happened in refractive surgery in 2001? Laser eye surgery peaked. It peaked worldwide. And why did that happen? Because the demographics of baby boomers, they were saying, we don't want to wear glasses. And since 2001, numbers have been strong in LASIK, but they've been diminishing or flat. And if you look 15 years later, where are all of those patients? Where's that demographic? Well, they're now my age or older, and they're all presbyopic. And so they're coming into my practice and your practice, and what are they telling you? I hate wearing glasses. I can't read anything. If I've got my glasses on to look at my book, I can't see the computer, I can't see the TV. So this is a constant problem for them. And we're trying as surgeons to address that in the most effective way to really optimize lifestyle. So keep that in the background when we're talking about this lens. And we'll do a bit of review in lens technology. How do we get into Symphony? And what does Symphony do? It really builds on what we've had before, and it addresses the shortfalls of the previous lenses. So Symphony's added to the Technos platform. So we've got monofocal lenses, we've had multifocal lenses, toric multifocal lenses, and they've been addressing our patients' needs for distance and near, monofocals with monovision, aspheric design, reduced spherical aberration, terrific lenses. But the problems that we had, or that I had, were that patients would come back and say, with multifocals, I'm having problems typically at nighttime. And I'm sure you all heard this in your offices. And that was a really difficult problem to solve. And so what did industry say? Well, they said, patients will adapt to this. Well, they adapt to it, but they adapt to it by restricting what they do. If you can't see when you're driving, you can't see when you're driving, but it's not going to get better. You can look at optical abnormalities, you can laser those out, you can zero out their optics, you can make them optimized. But if they've got bad halos because of technology, they've got bad halos. So I think that was always a barrier to surgeons, and I think to optometrists, in recommending certain lenses to your patients, because the worst thing is to recommend something to a patient who's coming to you in a trust position, and they're coming back to you and saying, well, this isn't what I expected. So ideally, if we could solve all of those problems, then you've got happy patients, and they're going to come and talk to you about happy things rather than talk to you about halos. So this lens really addresses a lot of those concerns that we have. So what are we looking to correct in an ideal lens? So spherical aberration, I think everybody, we're all up to speed on spherical aberration and why that's important. The one thing to remember in your LASIK patients who are hyperopic, their spherical aberration will likely be minus to start with. So in those patients, if you're doing a monofocal lens, you want to adjust for that and not do a spherical aberration correcting lens. So just a spherical lens will be better for those patients. Chromatic aberration correction, and we'll go through why that's important. Light transmission, this is addressing halos and glare, which is the biggest headache for us. Material clarity, I think everyone has seen issues with certain manufacturers and glistenings and lenses, and does that affect the patient's ability to see? In my opinion, it does. So the clearer the lens, the better the vision for the patient. And lens epithelial migration, need for capsulotomies, etc. So optimal lens design to prevent that. So that's what we want in an ideal lens. So spherical aberration, as you can see, reducing spherical aberration is going to give your patient sharper focus. So when you compare the different lenses that are out there, and here is your OHIP lens. So this is your $20 lens given to you by the government. And this is potentially how your patients are going to see. So when you're recommending that your patients upgrade, as I do to every patient, so even if they're diabetic with macular edema and they've got macular degeneration and they're a terrible refractive patient, you still don't want to give that patient this defocus, and the cost of upgrading the lens is minimal. So when your patients are saying, well, I'm going to just do the basic, just try to remember this image, okay? Because this is not what you want to give your patients. You want them over here. And you've got various aspheric prolate lenses which you can choose from. And I have to say my experience Technis is terrific, and the slide demonstrates that. Chromatic aberration, and we'll go into this a bit more, but if you look at the wavelengths of light and how are they focused in the eye, they are spread out. So in your wavelengths between 500 and 700, you're getting a spread which will give you defocus that increases aberration, like spherical aberration, and correcting that is going to give you some degradation in your image quality. So fixing that, as the Symphony does, is a great advance. Here's our armamentarium of our Technis multifocals that we had in the past. And what you could see was the trend was to start at +4, terrific reading, great distance, some night halos and degradation of night vision. Not very much intermediate vision. So all of the lens manufacturers, Technis, Restore, all started to drop the reading at to improve the intermediate, decrease the halos, but you started to lose your near vision. And you still had halos at nighttime despite that. So this wasn't the perfect answer, but it was an intermediate step. Acceptability of those lenses, really good. 80% of patients quite happy. I have lots of patients who have these lenses. They're happy. But if you really start to probe, and the question you really don't like asking is how's your night vision, because that could be a 10-minute conversation. So they're good, but there's something better. So we will look at these are halos. So as soon as you go from higher ads, you're getting more halos as you reduce the ad. Less halos, but not quite as good as a monofocal lens. And the ideal is to try to replicate the image quality of that monofocal lens, but extend the range of vision. So that's borne out in these two studies for distance and near. So why are people getting problems with nighttime vision? So if you do ray tracing and you look at how is that multifocal lens focusing in the eye, here's your point focus, here's your secondary focus, and in between you have a blurred image. And this is the problem for all of your patients. So they're not making it up. So this is what they see. So simultaneous vision, so you're focusing on one, you're suppressing the second one, and the out-of-focus image is the problem. These are your defocus curves. Obviously, as you drop the reading edge, you're pushing things out further. And these are the technical specifications. So the Symphony, the exciting part. So it's going to start to address all of those issues that the other lenses have. So it extends your range of vision, and we know that that works in the laser industry. So what was our advance in the laser industry? We looked at optimizing spherical aberration in laser to create depth of focus, and that's blended vision. And depth of focus is the key to patient satisfaction. So you're going to have half your patients with extended range rather than point focus. Okay. And it gives a full range of high quality vision with reduced halos and glare. And we have two patients tonight that are Symphony patients who we'll talk to and answering questions that you have. So don't believe me, believe them. So we've had multifocals, accommodating IOLs, crystal lens. I don't know how many crystal lenses you've seen in your practices. I tried crystal lens very briefly. I can't say that it worked. Really what crystal lens does, initially it's fine. The accommodating or the flexing of those haptics starts to wear off, and essentially you're doing monovision. And the company is telling you to target distance and target near. So effectively you might as well put a monofocal lens in. The multifocals and trifocals you're going to start to hear a lot about because there are new trifocals coming into Canada. Remember all the issues we have with the multifocals. Trifocals will give you more defined intermediate vision, but you're still getting a lot of glare at nighttime. So remember that before you start recommending those. And then here's our Symphony and extended range of vision. So the Symphony team, AMO, they got hard to work and they looked at all of the problems and tried to address them with the surgeons. And it's interesting what they came up with and how they were able to adapt the multifocal lens to give us what we really wanted. So the key thing was to try to get your contrast comparable to this monofocal lens. So if you can say, well, my night vision is as good as a monofocal, then patients are going to be happy when they talk to their friends who are out driving with just say distance vision and they don't have that extended range. Where your patients are going to really be happy is when you start to give them great distance comparable to a monofocal, but also intermediate and near. And that's why this is a winner. So they did two things. They looked at this achromatic technology, which we talked about already, and this Eshlet design feature. So we'll go into the style of the Eshlet, and that's interesting. That's where the physics come in, and the chromatic technology. So the original multifocals were different zones and different powers. So if you go back 15 to 20 years into the Resume, which was really the first large-scale multifocal that came into our market, you alternated 3 zones for distance and 2 zones for near. And the problem with that was the transition between the zones, and it gave a lot of glare. So that was adapted then to an array lens, and then in came Alcon with the Acrosoft Restore. And what was smart about the Acrosoft Restore in terms of its design was they felt in the central part, if they could put in a diffractive pattern so that you were able to slow down the wavelength. So these steps will take your wavelength as it's passing through and it will slow it down. So the height of the step will determine the amount of the wavelength that it's going to slow down. So if you were to think about this as if you increase this to cut out one wavelength, as light went through, you'd just be adding that same wavelength to the original, and you would get basically a spherical add lens. If you didn't have the step at all, you've got a spherical distance lens. So if you go halfway in between and you cancel out half of the wavelength, you're going to start to get the add that you want and maintain the distance. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So that's the basics that you have to remember when you look at what AMO did to come up with this extended range of vision. So they basically took a lens and I counted these one day. I think the original AMO multifocal had 32 rings, so their diffractive pattern was 32. And the Symphony is about 9 or 10. So they went from a 3-to-1 reduction in the amount of rings and increasing the spacing. They also changed the height and the shape here. So it's not actually a straight up step, it's a slightly curved step. And all of that had the effect of creating this depth of focus instead of point focus. And that's the magic of this design here. Correct? So there are more physics if you'd really like me to show you the math behind it. But essentially, that's what it's doing. And it's used in numerous industries. But this is really novel in lens design. And I believe it's a Canadian engineer that did it. So kudos to Canada for that. So that elongated focus is here. So instead of a point and then a second point, you're getting this focus between these 2 points. And that's where your patient satisfaction comes from. So if we go back to our radius models, here's our monofocal lens. So we have single focus, and then we get spectacle blur on either side of that. Here's our traditional multifocal focus, spectacle blur. And here we are with the elongated focus in the symphony. And this is why our 2 patients are so happy. Okay, achromatic technology. And this is really smart. And I don't know why the other lens manufacturers haven't come up with this yet. So they took a look at where are the different wavelengths of this light that's passing through your eye? Are they broken down? Do they focus at different places in the eye? And the answer is that they do. And by focusing in different places, that's creating its own aberration. So by correcting this aberration, if you were to measure between blue and red light, you're getting about 0.8 diopters of defocus. And so this lens has reduced that to 0.14 diopters, so much less blur. If you're, just think of your fluorocopter and you go from 0.75 to a quarter, right? It's a big difference. And so that's also helping these patients. So the lens design, that edge light design, plus this achromatic technology, those are the 2 winners of this lens. If we were to look at that on contrast charts, you can see the effect of that uncorrected here and corrected here. You're getting much more contrast and clarity. When you compare it to the other lenses and to a phakic eye, you can see that the Symphony IOL is the lens that is correcting this, and obviously does better in studies on looking at chromatic aberration. Modulated transfer function is looking at overall contrast, and when you compare this from a spherical intraocular lens to an aspheric lens to an aspheric with achromatic technology, you're just getting better contrast as you keep adding these new technologies to that lens platform. Again, if you are comparing here the overall contrast for distance vision, and you can see that as you go into the multifocals, you're starting to reduce your overall contrast. The Symphony is pretty much like a spherical lens. So you've really achieved basically comparability to your monofocal lens in terms of distance contrast, which is a huge gain for us. And there's your contrast chart compared to the monofocal lens. So do you get sharper vision without compromise? So we've gone over chromatic aberration, and when we look at studies which are comparing chromatic technology of Symphony to other lenses which are in the market, so the Restore and the Zeiss trifocal, you can see clearly Symphony is the winner because it's the only lens which is addressing that. When you look at high quality distance vision, again, the Symphony intraocular lens is coming out with great vision, distance, near, and distance intermediate, and near, certainly when you push that out a little bit, the quality is increasing. This chart would show that it's comparable to what's out on the market for near, but your patients will tell you that near is not here, like it was with the original Technis multifocal. You are pushing that reading back a little bit. So counsel your myopes on that, because your high myopes will expect that their reading will always be here. When you compare that to the Zeiss trifocal, you can see that Symphony, both of them have really good distance vision. The intermediate, this I found interesting, because this is really what Zeiss is marketing in their trifocals, that their intermediate distance is bang on. And in this study, comparing it to Symphony, Symphony comes out as the winner. And in their near vision, just be careful to notice that Zeiss is at 33 centimeters and Symphony's at 40. They're basically equivalent. And if you push back the Symphony, certainly their near vision gets much better. And when you compare that to the Restore, it's a clear winner on all three categories. And again, the Restore is comparing at 40 centimeters. This is the 2.5 at that Restore. So that's their newest lens. At 3 months post-op, this is the question you really want to know about halo and glare. And is it comparable to a monofocal lens? So there were different studies which were done. So there was a conceptual study, a harmony study, and the concerto study, which are all, as you can see, there's a musical theme. And all of them show very good results in terms of distance vision. There's some patients which are still complaining, of some glare, but I have to say, in my experience, over a year now putting these lenses in, it's a pretty small number of patients that are complaining of night glare. So we've gone over that. It's just interesting to keep that in mind and keep that image in mind when you're looking at patients with multifocals and recommending one. Halo profile, you can see here's where we were with our previous lens platform, and here we are with our Halo platform with Symphony. So all of these studies are indicating that what our patients are telling us is true. This is an interesting slide in that we don't have in Canada the ability to get the toric Symphony lens. It's a bit of a downfall in the platform, but that should be amended, we hope, within the next 6 months. This slide indicates that up to a diopter and a half, patients don't mind their astigmatism. I have to say, really the rules of laser eye surgery always hold. Once you're a diopter or more with astigmatism, patients do mind it in my practice, and we would treat that. So up to a diopter, they're fine. Over that, they should be lasered or they should have no RI to correct that. This is just looking at the extended range of vision, and compared to monofocal, you're getting in focus at least another diopter across the range of vision. Pupil independence, this goes back to the style of the older lenses compared to this extended range of vision with Symphony. So remember, in an Acrosoft Restore lens, you had 3 to 4 central diffractive rings, and then you had your base power beyond that. In a patient, they did that because they thought, if you're reading, your pupil's going to constrict, so you should just have your reading hat in a constricted central pupil. And outside of that, it should all be distance. That makes sense. I mean, that was a big advance when they brought that in. The problem is for people who have large pupils. So they would be getting this distance blur at all times. So in reality, it sounded great. It didn't work out so great in practice. And so they modified their lens. They were +4, +3, +2.5. They tried to get that so they didn't have as much pupil dependence, but their lens design is inherent that they're going to have that trouble. The Zeiss trifocal is also got some issues with people with large pupils, and the amount of glare and halo goes up. And that's true of what we would see in the traditional multifocal lenses, including the original Technis multifocals. So there's studies, these studies are just reviewing how happy are patients for distance for intermediate and near. And the 3 studies are pretty close. Again, this is the shortfall. So in addressing this, we've really moved from targeting both lines for distance to be plano to non-dominant eye to be about a -0.5. And when you do that, you can bump that curve of near acceptability up to be in the 90% range where the patients are for intermediate distance. So keep that, well, that's a surgical issue, but if you're refracting your patients and you see that one eye's a little bit myopic, that's good. Functional vision. And so if you're asking your patients, can you read a magazine and you compare the Symphony multifocal to monofocal, and you ask them about doing crafts, and you ask them about reading labels, computer work, in all of these categories, you're going to see that your patients are much happier with the Symphony multifocal than with the monofocal. And that's quite a change from what we were seeing in the past. And of course, it addresses the neurovision and lifestyle aspects that people want. Here are your target patients. Note that they are younger than most of these pictures, except for number 4. And this is what, this is what I want, right? I don't want to wear glasses, and I don't want to wear reading glasses, and I can say that, at 50, I'm starting to be like, I can't see quite like I used to. So, it may not be for people who are younger than 50 on your mind all the time, but when you start getting into your late 40s, this is what you're going to be thinking about all the time. Is how do I see this? How do I do, what do I need to be able to do the things that I didn't think about 10 years ago? Superlens in terms of acceptability, the post-market studies, very good acceptability across a large range of vision. This is our numbers. These are a short follow-up study of patients that we did with the Symphony. We had our myopes. We were doing up to, -7, -8 myopes. Range was, -3 to -4. Same with hyperopes and emmetropes. And small cylinders by and large. Most of them in the 65 plus age group. And fantastic distance vision across all of those groups. And 3 months it holds, and very, very good reading vision. These are the originals. We've modified that by doing that -0.5 micromono vision. And on our next group of study patients, I would expect most of this will be J1 or better, rather than a slight drop-off in neurovision. So when you're talking to your patients, you still have to, select your patients carefully for this lens. You don't want, people with epiretinal membranes and diabetic macular edema and end-stage glaucoma to be going into multifocal lenses. But typically they're, other than the epiretinal membrane people, typically they're not looking for this, but the epiretinal membrane people, they are. So be careful. Do an OCT. If you see a membrane, talk about high definition techniques, monofocal lens, okay? Your myopes, really counsel them about mirror. Don't be afraid to tell them. Reading like this is abnormal, because it is. This is normal, okay? So, and you'd be amazed that myopes, they don't realize that. They'll come in for surgery and they'll say, well, I never had a problem reading, so of course I'm going to keep that. So you really have to actually spend a bit of time and explain optics to them, because they don't get it. Hyperopes are happy with anything. So this lens, home run, every single hyperope you have, they will love you to death, okay? There's no hyperope that's unhappy with this lens. Talk to them about, if you want to do something really, really close, like read pill bottles, and you want to do cross-stitching or, whatever, that, optometrists will get you a pair of magnifiers, or you can just buy a magnifier. And that will get rid of a lot of your chair time if they have that expectation. The dominant versus non-dominant we've gone over. The halo, you can really, honestly, and studies do show us that you're not going to hear much about halos at that time. Very, very few patients will talk about it. Initially they will, first week or two, They're going to see rings and they're going to talk about halos, and that will dissipate. It's really the same as a monofocal, and don't be afraid to remind patients of that. Monofocal lenses have their own sets of halos, so your cataract patients are going to have a little bit of halo at nighttime. That's normal, that's all part of lens technology. So this is, to get this to be the same as a monofocal, that's a huge advance for us. Post-op diffraction, just keep pushing the plus because they will heed the minus because it's a multifocal with extended range of vision. And that's it. It's a terrific lens. Any questions for me? Angela?
Kids go to mild, if their refraction is more than a -8, they don't do well, or
Oh no, they do great. I mean, be careful of the retinal issues, right? A lot of greater than -8 myopes have myopic macular degeneration, so you want to be careful of that and make sure they don't have an epiretinal membrane. A lot of them do.
If you're an upper limit, like they put prescription parameters, someone's -11, and they still.
What's her range?
5 to 30.
5. So -11, they may have to have some LASIK afterwards. But as long as they have a good cornea, it's okay. And we market this to your patients to combine it with laser eye surgery. So because we don't have the toric lenses. So when patients are coming to our office and they're talking about this, we're saying to them, look, we'll make you refractively neutral. So if they need to have their astigmatism treated, we treat that. We don't charge them for that. That's all in their package when they're buying this multifocal. So you can tell them with confidence that, okay, you've got the dioptric astigmatism, don't worry about it. Dr. Taylor will take care of it. And we'll laser that out. If they say it's, -0.5 bothers them, we'll laser it out. So from that point of view, you should have confidence that the refraction will be exactly where you want it to be. Any other questions? Well, we do have 2 patients here, so I'd love to hear the patients. Amanda will introduce our 2 patients.
You guys can think of anything. First off, I'd like to invite Warren Reynolds. Warren is a very young clear lens exchange patient. He's only 4 weeks out, so his eye's still healing, but we want to welcome Warren up to provide some feedback.
I was invited out here to answer some of your questions. I've only had it for 4 weeks. Dr. Taylor performed the operation, of course, or the surgery, and worked out very well. Been pretty happy with it so far. Pretty well immediately after the surgery I could read. And of course, I'm going through the healing process. No question about it. It was interesting. He said that a lot of patients are starting to see the light. I just retired a year ago, so I've seen the light on a lot of different planes here or platforms. But one of these certainly is having the surgery. No question about it. He was talking about halos. Yes, I've been seeing halos in the distance, especially the distance as well. But they reassure me that those will disappear, no question about it, as my brain starts to accept and adjust to the lenses as well. Of course, mine might take a little while longer than most. Seeing so I didn't just finish retired, I retired of the government services and I'm pretty well brain dead by now.
Maybe you can tell the audience what was the most frustrating thing about your vision before you had surgery?
I got really tired of wearing glasses, no question about it. In my role, I was on the computer pretty well 8 hours a day for the last 20 years. I was a training instructor is what I was. So trucks, for example. So when we were in underneath the trucks, you know, given my type of prescription, I was corrected for nearsighted, and I could, when I'm looking up at the trucks, I'm looking at the part, you know, my prescription for distance as well, so I couldn't read the inspection measurements and things like that. So that was pretty frustrating, no question about it. But other than that, like I said, working on the computer, I was pretty well focused on a fixed point, you know, in front of me sort of thing for most of the day. And of course, when you get up, you know, your eyes are trying to adjust for other things as well. I am so glad to get rid of those glasses. The day after the surgery sort of thing, it was nice to wake up and actually be able to read my alarm clock without glasses, be able to wash my face and see my face in the mirror, because I found out that I'm a lot older than I thought I was.
Just for our audience's knowledge, Warren was a clear lens exchange. So he wanted to have laser eye surgery. So he's a +3 pre-operatively. So great candidate for a clear lens with multi-focal. My interest is, how do you find colors, seeing as you didn't have a cataract, how do you find your colors after the surgery? Do you notice that there's any change in colors? Are they brighter? Are they
I find them the same. Yeah. I mean, I find outside brighter, no question about it. And of course, I wear sunglasses a lot lately. But other than that, no, the colors are pretty well the same. I haven't really noticed any difference in that.
Good. Any questions from the audience?
So how's the computer work? Sorry, yeah, computer.
I've given up computers now.
He's still on computers. He's still on computers.
My wife complains that I game a lot now. But as far as working on the computer, pretty much the same. I haven't had any problems with it, so I can work with them. I work on it without glasses.
We find that educating the patient that working distance on the computer is a big thing too. So when you're selling a business plan, you have to educate them. There's a specific way to adjust the screen and so
Well, one of the things I find I have to do is blink when I'm working on the computer. And making sure that my eyes remain moist as well.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that you really be telling your patients. Make sure you're blinking and keeping your eyes moist.
That's true.
Of course, it's hard to see the computer.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you very much, Mark.
So now we'd like to ask Len Beauparland to come up. Ben was a cataract exchange patient, previous hyperopic, and you can share your experience pre and post-op. That would be lovely.
I guess I'll start with the reasons why I decided to have the surgery. I own an industrial supply company, so I'm dealing with automotive and aerospace pretty much every day, computers as well. And when I was flying the airplane, I was wearing a small lens on the end of my nose. So distance, my eyes were great. But then when I dipped down into the cockpit, I would have trouble seeing without the glasses. And especially at night, I had some issues. So I thought maybe if I had laser surgery, my wife had it about 12 years ago, and she was as blind as a bat, and she still doesn't wear it. Other than now, she has a little bit of, up close. So I went and consulted Dr. Taylor. He suggested that, with starting with cataracts, I may be a good candidate for this. And I thought about it, and I'm a technology guy as well, too. And the real reason is that I just was so tired of taking a pair of glasses out, talking to someone, taking them off, and I was putting them back in, because I didn't need them for distance. So again, when you're getting ready for elective surgery, you think, why am I doing this? So I go to the Welland Hospital, and I'm not saying too much. The lady says, we'll have enough muffin for you, all this stuff when you come out. Right? So they did one eye one day, So I go in, 10 minutes later I come out and I'm like, wow, no pain. I can see a little bit better, don't need the glasses in that eye. So I ran back the next morning and told the lady, just give me 2 muffins and get this guy here. That's how nice it was. Now, I don't have any, at first, the first couple days that the surgery was done with both eyes, at night I saw, and I was driving right away. The first few lights that I saw looked like a bit of a spider web. So I thought, okay, this is not normal. But that went away fairly quick. I don't have any halos at all. I drive all the time at night, I don't have any issues. When in the distance sometimes where I used to be able to see like roadsides, like really up, like the distance, my distance vision was great. Now it's, I still see them, and I have no complaints about that. So the only thing that I would have to say is that I'm extremely happy with what's happened here. So, and what was the other thing that I was really important? Yeah, there was no pain at all, nothing at all. And I don't have any dryness. I know that Warren we talked about that earlier about the computer. My computer screen is at a normal distance. I don't have any issues with small characters. I used to have my phone, the iPhone, they were bolder letters. I just have normal now, so it's been a nice change. And I'm about 7 months, I think, since I've had the surgery. So other than that, I don't know what else I can tell you. I'd be suggesting it. I suggest it to anyone that asks me about it. I have a friend that's 71 years old that's going in to get it done. I spoke to a guy today, and he's the same way. He wears multifocal contacts. He's known me in business for probably 20 years, and he used to watch me with the glasses, and he goes, "You really like those, don't you?" And I said, "Absolutely. It's been a nice change." So other than that, do we have any questions? Yes, sir.
What was the worst part of your experience?
The worst part of the experience? The worst part of the experience, I would say, was when I walked out of the hospital into the light. Like you asked about colors,
Right.
they pop. They knew that I could see the difference right away.
Yeah.
The colors were a lot brighter. And I get used to them, like I was saying again to that friend of mine today, like you got a pink shirt on or whatever, and I said to him that he had a picture, and he goes, "That pink is very, very nice now." Right? So it's funny that question came up about the colors, because it does make a difference. Yeah. Any other questions?
Is your distance,
Pardon?
is your distance as good as it was? Or better?
It's been 6 months I've adapted to it. At first I thought it wasn't as good, but even like today, I always try to look. Because when you fly an airplane, you can see 100 miles when you're up from 5,000 feet or 10,000 feet. So I still don't have any difference, a difference in vision that way. I just had mine, what do you call it? Polished?
Yeah, caps lock.
And so it's just everything's clearer again. So I guess there's a protein or something you were telling me, right? So other than that, it's been fantastic. I would definitely suggest it to anybody, and I actually do. So it's like the Remington guy, right? I'm the user too, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks.
One more thing I'd like to say is that the staff and the aftercare that I received was second to none. That was a little bit of a concern I had going into it, what to expect. And the staff, the whole staff, has been very, very accommodating and very informative, and I really enjoyed the experience. So, and I'm happy with the new lenses. Very happy.
I wonder if our two optometrists who are here tonight who work in my practice who see a lot of symphony patients, maybe if you come up and maybe talk to your colleagues about it. What's the optometric experience?
from our standpoint, it's made life significantly easier. I think preparing the patient prior to the surgery is something that we all should be doing for any cataract consultations. If a consultation were to come in with binocular dominance and an acceptance of plus in a non-dominant eye, it would make Dr. Taylor's job much easier initially. Just talking about lenses in general and the possibility of upgrading. If they're prepared and excited, they come in, and then when we follow up, 1 week later, they are exhilarated. They are extremely happy. Educating them on the small print is, I think, the biggest thing that we've had to talk to people about realistic expectations. I don't know a single person who's happy with the progressive lens that isn't, happy with the assembly. These people are more happy without the glasses than they have been in the past.
Yeah, so I would just agree with Brandon. Setting the expectations is really important. Just seeing what their lifestyles are like and what they do in their everyday lives and see how they would benefit from the lenses. But I know both Brandon and I have had lots of positive feedback from the lenses, many happy patients.
And everybody's excited to get back and get a good pair of quality polarized sunglasses. That's what we're trying to emphasize to our patients. I believe we talked to about the Maui gyms.
One more thing, I don't wear sunglasses very often. And the only time I wear them, I know I should. I forgot what the line is. I thought when I first had it, that it would be harmful, right? But do these have some type of protection in as well?
UV protection.
Yeah, so, I don't really, the light doesn't block me, which is somebody else had said that it would.
We're trying that all the patients who we release back to the ODs, we're going to be trying our best to educate them on getting a good polarized pair of sunglasses from their referring optometrist and setting them back to as soon as possible.
Great. Thanks very much. And you'll see on your tables there's a box, there's a magic box. I don't know what's in the box.
I do.
I bet there was later.
So the magic box, so these boxes were actually developed recently, and myself and Dave had a part in it. It's kind of like a pilot project where we can only get better, but to support the optometry practices. So it's one of those things where we start with the basics, and we thought we'd present it tonight, and if anyone has interest, you can definitely leave with one tonight, or there's a notepad out in front that we can follow up and drop some off. But it's really a tool we can start customizing to your practice. So if you get an opportunity, I don't want to stop you guys while you're eating, but take a look, and what you'll find in each is a questionnaire. And the purpose of the questionnaire was, you guys are busy, there's not always time to speak around lens choices, but if a patient can leave your practice understanding how they would like their vision to be, maybe something they never thought about before, something that they didn't realize there was going to be so many choices before they walk into an office, to understand that there's many choices to customize your vision depending on where you want to see. This could be a good start. Whether they fill it out or not, I guess, to start thinking. There's also a decision tree, and this was developed last year, and what we found is the same thing, is that patients leave and they remember a little bit of what the optometrist said, a little bit of what the counselor said, and a little bit of what the ophthalmologist said. So this tree really helps empower the patient to understand what path they would have to take to get whatever desired outcome, with also explaining what cataract surgery is and some of their choices. And then lastly, there's some symphony brochures, which what I find at the minimum, if you open up each brochure, it gives all options, right? A patient wants a monofocal, a toric, a multifocal, and then a symphony lens, that they really understand what that range of vision means. So really it's a tool to at least allow patients to leave with a little more information before they walk into another office to have a whole bunch of information provided to them and not know what direction to take. On top of that, there's some gummies, there's some reading cards on the tables that were developed. These don't come in the boxes, but where we can really customize to suit your needs and your practice. What I like about the reading cards, and even if you guys want to have a little fun game with the magic box, you can actually see ideally where you spend most of your time when you spend it in that near world, right? And what I found, and when I educate in offices, or in clinics or do presentations, is that a lot of people do spend a lot of time out here, but they don't realize it. A lot of people think near is here. So it's a really good tool to get people thinking of where do you spend 80% of your time. And once again, it's something that is available if you find that it might be beneficial, or something just to look at today to see where would you want your year to be. All right, so take a look. If you have any questions, Dave and I will be at the table. I want to thank Dr. Taylor for presenting tonight. I hope you guys found it very informative, and to leave today understanding if you see a tetanus symptom patient come into your practice that one, you know it's not multifocal, and two, you can differentiate and help better understand where that vision is supposed to be.